Thank you very much. And welcome to Cats and Dogs on Press TV with me, Lembit Opik. This week, I can reveal a very special holiday offer that is open to people from any country. So sit down, listen, and get ready for the free trip of a lifetime. The Israeli regime is often in the news, but not usually for its love and generosity. But we at Cats and Dogs can now reveal their ingenious plan to change all that. Ladies and gentlemen, they've turned themselves into a cut-price tour operating company. I'm not kidding. They're offering free 10-day trips to Israel for travellers from anywhere in the world. Yes, it's absolutely true. The regime will pay your airfare, your hotels, your meals, and even your transportation. You name it, they'll pay for it. I bet if you're the outgoing American president, they'll even cover your Twitter data bill, which of course for Trump will be nothing since they closed his account. But I digress. Anyway, these free Israeli trips are for real. So what are you waiting for? Pack your things and go, go, go. Just a couple of conditions. I should tell you about these. You need to be Jewish and you have to be between 18 and 32 years old. Still, if you do fulfill those conditions, welcome to an all-expenses-paid trip full of fun and adventures for young adults. The Israeli regime's versatility is truly amazing. They can do so many things all at once. Grab land, shoot kids, orchestrate terrorist attacks, and even run a travel agency. No other travel agency in the world can do all that. Not at the same time, anyway. Not even Club 1830, because they couldn't compete with Club 1832, as we've seen, because they were taken over. Speaking of which, that age limit is interesting, isn't it? Some say this is a brainwashing tour, so leave out the older folks, right? Well, maybe they reckon those above 32 years old have too many things in their brains to have them washed away in just 10 days. There are all those ground-in memories, like seeing decades of atrocities in the occupied territories. Or maybe they just listened to Nancy Pelosi and decided their work there at that age was done. But what about the lower age limit? Why should these travellers have to be above 18? It's a safety issue. Travellers below 18 might be mistaken for Palestinian kids, which means this could happen to them by accident.
Showed father and son in Gaza caught up in Israeli-Palestinian crossfire. The 12-year-old was later pronounced dead, hit, said France 2, by Israel.
Anyway, have a safe journey if you are old enough and young enough at the same time to be eligible. By the way, the most recent occupied territories are not part of the tour. The Israeli regime seems good at removing residents from their land, but not so good at including those lands in the Grand Tour. So if you want to see those, good luck with that. You only get the older occupied bits for free. But that's okay because the invasion was ages ago and so it's all got a bit boring now, hasn't it? Now a word about the transportation system inside the occupied territories. This is a new way to get personal service without having to take a taxi. You don't need to wait to get to the next stop. You can politely ask for the driver to stop for you. And if he doesn't, then you can take out your knife and he'll probably let you off then. Worried about the police? Don't be. They're busy providing a generous free shower service for protesters using water cannon on people protesting against Netanyahu. Those people are obviously protesting because they're all under 18 or over 32 and angry. So no free holidays for them. But if you are Jewish between 18 and 32 and not afraid of getting stabbed on a bus, go ahead and apply for that free 10-day trip. And you'll be able to get a nice shower in your hotel room instead of depending on a police water cannon to do it for you. Meanwhile, the good news is that after months of having problems with handling the pandemic, Mr. Netanyahu has finally called on his cabinet members to do their best to handle the crisis. However, the Prime Minister's call has been made a tiny bit harder because it seems that 6 members of his own cabinet have been among the protesters. But maybe they just wanted a free shower. Such levels of confusion in terms of political direction are nothing new in the regime. It is said that the founder of the Israeli regime, Ben-Gurion, did not believe in a higher power when he wanted to establish the regime in the Promised Land. Perhaps that's also why in 1952, when Albert Einstein was asked to be Israel's second president, he declined. With his innate wisdom, he knew that trying to run the place would be relatively difficult. Relatively? Get it? Never mind.
"1,000 years ago, the world leaders vowed to help the Israeli regime by hook or by crook. The Americans sent their troops to the occupied territories to protect the regime. The French said they would lobby the Russians to let their gas pipelines pass through the occupied territories. The Germans promised the Israeli regime to be the first one to get COVID-19 vaccines in the region. Italy also promised Netanyahu to build an airport in Tel Aviv so the Milan-Rome flights would stop there. Bin Salman secretly met with the Israeli Prime Minister and promised to cut off his ties with his Palestinian brothers if But the Sudanese were against the Israeli regime. They said Bin Salman did not give the money he had promised in exchange for normalizing relations with the regime. No one knows what happened to the regime despite all those sacrifices.
Now to finish off, I present to you a new feature we've called The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. The good this week is footballer Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, this sports legend is said to have turned down a multi-million-dollar opportunity to become the face of Saudi Arabian tourism. The kingdom has regularly been accused of sports washing in its bids to divert attention from its human rights record. Mr. Ronaldo gave them the red card, and for that he gets to be this week's man of the match. Now he'll somehow just have to find a way to survive on the $500 million he's already got. The bad this week is Benjamin Netanyahu for a medical reason. In an agreement with Pfizer, the embattled Prime Minister has agreed to turn the whole of Israel into a lodge laboratory, with the effect of the vaccines being sent straight back to the inventors. In exchange, he got to the top of the delivery list. I guess the vaccine firms looked at him in the eye and said, "The question you've got to ask yourself is, do you feel lucky?" And finally, this week's ugly is Nancy Pelosi, who once infamously said, "If this Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our cooperation with Israel." Then, calling for an impeachment, she quoted an Israeli poet, using the words, "I can't keep silent in light of how my country has changed her face." Interestingly, she was calling for the impeachment of Trump, not Netanyahu. With loyalty like that, it's a shame she fails the criteria for that free trip with Club 1832. That's all for this time. Join me again next time to see who's offering free holidays, who's taking them, and whether they'll let people as old as Donald Trump and me go along for the ride. I'm Lembit Opik, this is Press TV, and that was Cats and Dogs.